What's going on with you, Cooper? Live right now.
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing great, man. I'm just loving the growth,
Good.
enjoying the holiday seasons. How's your holidays going so far?
Uh, we've had a loss and some trouble in the news, but still very blessed. Thankful to be here.
Well, I'm sorry to hear
Happy to
about
be.
that, man. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, cheers to the people that we lost and the ones that are here, and welcoming everybody into the room. We're gonna talk about 2020 in hip hop this year. We're gonna talk about who's artist of the year. And people are already chiming in on the title. Somebody said, "Nope, 2018 was." The title of today's show is going to be "Is 2020 the best year in hip hop in the last 10 years, last decade, however you want to put it?" We have our opinions on it. We've been covering the whole year, the whole time. We covered 2018 as well. Like, what are some of your thoughts on 2020? Do you believe 2020 is the best hip hop year in the past 10 years? What up, Damaris? See you out there.
What up? If we're talking head to toe, then I think so. Yeah.
Well, I have my reasons, man, and people keep chiming in 2018. See, all right.
I mean that would be the year. I think 2012 and 2018 are the years that come to mind.
Yep.
From 20, if we're talking 2010 to 2020, 2012 and 2018 definitely come to mind. What I'm going to submit to people is that those years were excellent years, but those years were also like very, very top heavy.
Very.
Like this year, top and bottom heavy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think with this year, for me, and I did say 2018, and I know you were telling me halfway through the year, like, yo, this might be the best hip hop year in a minute. And I'm like, 2018 is because we had Daytona in 2018. Well, we had that 1 month where everything dropped.
That's
What?
what I mean. Okay.
Yeah, but that
Okay.
was
So I
top
think
heavy. This year, I would give 2020 the nod because this year is a pace setter, and a lot of people were dropping multiple efforts, quality efforts, and it wasn't from your usual suspects either. We weren't sitting here waiting for Jigga to drop nothing. Nas was able to drop something, and that was, I mean, the best thing he's dropped in a minute. Busta Rhymes came through, so yeah, like you said, it was balanced, and obviously Griselda, for us, we believe the West Side Gun, Pray for Paris was album of the year. We're gonna get into that in a minute too. Either that or Conway, from a king to a god. He just dropped the deluxe. You got Benny doing what he's doing, and then like you said, you got Busta Rhymes coming with an ELE too. That was, I mean, everybody was overwhelming this year. Nobody really undershot except for if we were talking Eminem's music to be murdered by, or if you're talking Lil Wayne's funeral. Go ahead.
um, I told you that specifically because two albums that I heard in the first half of the year made me feel like this was going to give 2018 uh, a run for its money. And that was Alfredo by Gibbs
Mm-hmm.
and Pray for Paris by West Side Gun. Because when I looked at those two albums, I was like, I mean, you know how I felt. I felt like it was a between Daytona and Victory Lap for album of
Yeah.
the year, and I felt that way before Nip died, depending on how you felt about, you know what I'm saying, like how an album should go, because Nip had a lot of records on there and a lot of bangers, and it was a really dope all the way playthrough album, so it was
Right.
longer than Daytona. I still had Daytona at number one. And so in Pray for Paris, I felt like there was an album that gave Daytona a run for its money. And in Alfredo, I felt like there was an album that gave Victory Lap a run for its money. And so from then, for me, it was a question of like, okay, well, who's going to make an Astro World level
Mm-hmm.
album? And we got another like two or three of those. So I was like,
Yeah.
because Busta's, Nas, and Conway's project, and then Boldy's project, and then the Locks project.
I will say
You get
this:
what I'm saying? And
Astro
then
World
the
was
Benny
different.
project.
Astro
Astro,
World, Astro World was different because that was a mainstream, a mainstream effort
still
that
a
was
classic.
just a powerhouse. I think that,
Still a classic.
like we've talked about before on this show, I think that you kind of got to separate industry albums from, I guess the core albums, right? I mean, I don't want to say
Not when we're
separate
talking
them.
about the year. Hold on, Mike.
No,
Not
but
necessarily when you're talking about the year.
no, but what I'm saying is
Quality
I would
wise.
compare Big Sean's album more so towards the Astro World because there weren't a lot of industry albums this year. And Astro World's better than Big Sean's,
No. I
Detroit
get what
too.
you're saying. If that's the case, that's not too much of a conversation. Because I mean, you and I have talked. Like Astro World's a classic to you and me, right? I was playing a track off Astro World today. I actually played some off Astro World today. Me and the girls were riding to it in the car. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Astro World's crazy. I'm gonna run down some of these albums. You sent me the list of the top 20 hip hop albums of 2020. This is what we looking like for 2020 for the people who were saying 2018. You got Pray for Paris. You got Lil Baby's album. You got hold on, I'm looking at something else. Never mind. Let me get all that together real quick. Go ahead. What you were saying?
Hold on, Lil Baby made my top 20 album list. Though.
No, I know, but I was looking at the wrong list though.
I believe he's somewhere between 11 to 13 on the list though.
Okay.
If memory serves correct. But he's on there. You want me to go get my stuff right quick?
No, go ahead. I got it. You go ahead and talk about the rest of 2020, and then I'll go ahead and find this list. Because some of the years that people are talking about is 2011, 2014, 2013. I think you said 2012 was the only other one.
Right, but there are just so many gems this year, like Reasonable Drought with Stove God Cooks. It's something that like people forget that Yo Gotti dropped the album this year. Like right before the quarantine hit, or right around the time it is, and his album was snapping. Like I think his album is one of those albums that really suffered from the fact that it's like it just happened at the wrong time. There's really nothing wrong with it. That's why I put it on the slept on list, is because I actually enjoy Gotti's album. It's actually one of, if not possibly his best project. It just happened at a bad time, and like shit got shut down this year, Mike.
What about Jeezy's album?
Mike, that made the slept on list too, and that was one of those albums that was in consideration for making the top 20 that I kind of went back. Remember that bulk of, Mike, there was literally a bulk of about 10 to 12 albums that I had to listen to and parse through to put somewhere, I'd say from like 14 to 24. You know what I'm saying? And Jeezy's was one of those albums that kind of fell like somewhere between, like he's in the top 25. You know what I'm saying? But when I put his album up against other albums, it's like when I was telling you his degree of difficulty was higher than Tip's was. But when you listen to the albums next to each other, you still enjoy listening to Tip's shit more. And so it kind of, I know that the degree of difficulty is higher, but it's like the quality of music, Mike. I mean, it's still got to, that still has to be the end all be all at the end of the day when we're discussing music.
Right.
And so I know we're going to get to this, and I don't want to get to this like too much too soon, because I know you're going to bring it up. That's why I kind of had a problem with that spin cover, because it felt kind of like safe to me.
A lot of people had breakthrough years, and I think that for me, that's what separates a year like this from, let's say, a 2018, which we had some quality music, but we can't really say someone had a breakthrough year, like guys that weren't here, but because of 2018, they're gonna be here throughout. Unless you want to count Westside Gunn, because Supreme Blientele was 2018. But again, this is a different kind of breakthrough year for them.
But of course, it's a different kind of breakthrough, because like they all kind of broke through this year.
Yeah.
But that was kind of their breakthrough moment. That was the first project. Like, that was the first project, Mike, where I felt like they made multiple classic songs on there. It's like, Blientele, if I'm not mistaken, track number 2 is like Gods Don't Bleed, and track number 3 is Brutus. That's two hip-hop classics. You know what I'm saying? And there's other stuff on there. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if Elizabeth is on there. That's one of Westside's best tracks. But, he had stuff on there. RVD is on there.
Yo, Andre said, damn, I got to catch y'all next week because Benny and Conway got a concert right now. That is true. They got the title junk going on right now. Broderick said 2000.
Come here and say that, Dre.
Right.
Right, that's real shady.
Broderick said 2013 was my favorite year. It had Mac Miller watching movies. It had Drake, Nothing Was the Same. Jay-Z, Magna Carta, Gambino, Nothing Was... Gambino, I think that was because of the internet that year. Nothing Was the Same. And Chance, Acid Rap. Well, this is what we got for 2020. You got Westside Gunn, Pray for Paris. You got Conway, From a King to a God. You got Freddie Gibbs, Alfredo, with Alchemist as well. Nas, King's Disease. You got Busta Rhymes, ELE 2. Bodie James, A Price of Tea in China. The Lox, Living Off Experience. Royce 5'9". The Allegory. Black Thought, Streams of Thought 3, Cain and Abel, Big Sean, Detroit 2, Future and Lil Uzi. They dropped that Pluto and Baby Pluto. Benny the Butcher, Burden of Proof. You got Lil Baby, My Turn. You got Amani Caesar, The Liz. You got Westside Gun, Who Made the Sunshine. Static Selectors album. Run the Jewels 4. Gunna, Wanna. And T.I.'s Libra. And you also got Westside Gun's Fly Guys, Awesome God 2. It's just a lot that, and you got the veterans putting together quality work and the other. Go ahead.
So think about the guys that didn't make my list. Chains didn't make the list. He barely made. He barely missed it. Jay Electronica.
Yep. Damn, Jay Electronica didn't make the list.
Jeezy, Jada Kiss's solo album, Mike.
Yeah.
Like this year was so heavy, Mike. Like it was like that. And to be honest with you, like that's why I keep talking about Reasonable Drought. Like Stove's album might be better than all 4 of those projects, Mike. And nobody really even know who he is yet. So I just gave you 5 projects off the top of my head outside of the top 20 that are like good projects, Mike. Like we were talking about a Written Testimony as like album of the year contender when we talked in March. That's how heavy this year is.
I agree. I think a Written Testimony. Andre said, "Fuck it, I'm staying on." That's what's up, Andre. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate the love.
Hey, I gotta go back and watch Conway.
Oh yeah, we definitely gonna go back and watch that and check that out. That's a big moment.
Hold on, Mike. Have you heard Tito's Back? You know the track Tito's Back off Fly God is an Awesome God part 1. Yeah, I hope they do Tito's Back. That's like my favorite joint with them two together. Like Westside's talking at the end, but it's just them rhyming on it. Oh, it's crazy.
Gator says, Mike, how you feel about the Juicy J album? Yo, I love the Juicy J album. I mean, you must have heard me earlier or something.
Mike, that made the slept on list.
I mean, that's another one. Shit was heavy. All right, this is what I'll say about the Juicy J album since I was asked specifically. It really gave me 3 6 Mafia feels, and you know what I'm saying? I love 3 6. Growing up, like that was one of my favorite groups. So on an underground level, I like the fact that he went back to their original sound. And I was telling somebody that I think artists, no matter where they get in their career, I think they owe it to the fans to do one effort to take it back to that sound that people originally fell in love with them for. Because Juicy J's far removed from, the 3 6 sound. That's the stuff that DJ Paul's still doing. And even 3 6 changed up their sound, I would say, after 66, 61. But I love this album because you could tell that he was paying homage to what they did in the mid to early 90s. So yeah, Juicy J's album was dope.
I don't think he ever left the formula necessarily, did he?
I think he did. Yeah, I think that when Juicy J was, bands to make a dance, Juicy J, he was, it was a whole different sound.
See that's what I mean. I'll say, okay, so for me, those sounds and all those sounds like that, I guess that that hyper like drum pattern sound that's so super popular down here, which is what bands make her dance is.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, that is like kind of 3 6. Like that's just a modernized version of what 3 6 created. So that's what I mean. Like for me, he never really left that. He just really started working with cats, quite frankly, that had been listening to him.
Right.
DJ Paul and took their formula. He like, shit, I might as well start doing records with these young cats.
Right. I mean, because if you listen to Savage Mode, which was another one that I didn't hear on the list, I love Savage Mode, and you could tell.
Metro on the slept on list, Mike.
I could tell that Metro was very influenced by 3 6 on that. You know what I'm saying? And so what Juicy J was doing on this album is, like you said, he was collaborating with people who were influenced by them. I think him and Lex Luger produced the whole thing, and you could tell that they were digging into the old 3 6 stuff.
But Mike, how many Lex Luger tracks have you heard? Can't you hear that he's influenced by 3 6 in his tracks before though? Like most, if you're down here, you've probably been influenced by Manny, DJ Paul and Juicy J, Organized Noise. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? To a degree, I guess I would say Timberland and Missy for a minute. Like, they just influenced everybody.
But I don't, I think their influence is a little different. I think that
that's what I mean.
3 6 is a group where people just legit sample. Like, I feel like 3 6 is probably the Parliament Funkadelic of their era, where people just took what they were doing and it was brand new to a whole new generation. Because,
Mike,
go ahead.
I usually hate your correlations and connections. I love that one.
It's the truth.
I agree with you.
I know you don't like my future as James Brown, but yeah, I mean, 3-6 is Parliament Funkadelic. You got a whole new generation that is basically running on 3-6 sounds and they don't even know it.
No, I mean, they have. Well, maybe they don't know it. I mean, shit. Here I go giving people credit they don't deserve. Maybe they don't.
Yeah,
but
some of them probably don't even know it.
Like running off Savage Mode 2 is one of the, like, I mean, it's on our top 20 list. For me, it's one of the 10 best rap songs this year. That's straight out of 3-6's like cornerball 8 pocket.
But the best part of that for me, I don't know if you seen the video, right?
So is Glock in my lap. That's straight. Hypnotized Camp Minds Posse, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what? The part for me was the fact that I don't know if you've seen the running video, but Metro was wearing the 3-6 Live by Your Rep t-shirt. Man.
Right. He know what time it is.
That's love right there, man.
Yeah, Metro know what time it is.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so the other thing that, I mean, outside of the Juicy J album, I was going to talk about this deluxe From a King to a God. And I know we got some Griselda fans in here. I know Andre's in here. I know Jay's in here. And everybody else. Don't want to ignore nobody. Yeah. And, I know Jay's going to say the Liz was album of the year. But we're going to go to the phone lines a little bit later. But what did you think about the deluxe version of From a King to a God? Did it propel that album to album of the year over Pray for Paris for you? Or what were your thoughts?
If it were to... Here's the thing. We can't just sit up here and say that we cut it off like a week or two ago and then like include the deluxe version. And
I agree.
I mean, Mike, just off Raw Oysters, Amina's Van, and Crack in the 90s, it would put it over the top for Pray for Paris for album of the year, just objectively speaking. But didn't we cut it off? But you know what it is, Mike? It's one of those things. It's just further validation, like what I've been saying. He ain't having no regular ass MC of the year.
Yeah.
He's having one of those Biggie, Nas, Rakim, like greatest rap ass years ever, like bar and MC wise.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I don't want to see anybody else really on any covers about anything except for Artist of the Year, possibly. And the only two people that I would really want to see other than him win that would be either his brother or Lil Baby.
I think Artist of the Year.
But as far as all that empty shit, he's sweeping all those awards.
You know what? I will say this. You're right. For everybody just tuning in, Conway is MC of the Year 2020. It's not even a competition. He's a runaway candidate. This is Michael Jordan in '88 runaway.
37 points a game.
Yeah.
Without shooting the three.
Yeah, shooting 50% from the field.
He's doing fundamental rap shit well that just hasn't been done at this level in a long time. Like, quite frankly, it just like Pusha's the only other guy that comes to mind when I think like fundamentally, like doing it this well for like the 2018 year.
Yeah.
That's why. I mean, it's obviously. I mean, I think most people would agree, like, the conversation over the 10-year period is between 2018 and 2020. But we just spent about 10 minutes talking about albums that didn't make the top 20 list.
I didn't even get to your slept on list, and I can get to your slept on.
We just covered like the first 6 or 7 albums.
Okay.
I think actually that I had listed on the slept on list, which was like Savage Mode, Ignatius, Chain's album, Jeezy's album, Stove God album. Electronica's album. I
see Dave East, Karma 3.
Yeah, Dave East, Karma 3.
And we got Lulu on there. We got Floor Seats 2. We got Flea Lord, Pray for Evil, Money Man Epidemic, Goody Mob Survival Kit, Yo Gotti Untrapped. Oh, Elzai, 7 times down, 8 times up. That was a really good album. And I love Elzai. We don't talk about that one enough.
That was that. You want to know what, Mike? That was for my Trapped in the '90s niggas album, as Nas said on Locomotive. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people would say that Nas deserves MC of the Year with King's Disease, but
No.
I mean, Conway got this one. And like you said, I think this deluxe that was released today was further validation for that. And I do think you're right in the fact that Pray for Paris should still get that consideration because that was the original one that was put out. He didn't have to go back, retool, add on some more. But what I will say, what's the name of that song? The 90s song that's on the deluxe of Conway. Somebody help me out in the room. You know what I'm talking about?
Baby?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah. Crack in the 90s. The young lady with the last verse is a problem.
Whole problem.
And I went back and I pressed.
Is she part of Griselda?
She is. She's Buffalo.
It's a whole problem.
Both of them on that song are Buffalo. Dude who went out, and excuse me for not knowing the names. I'm going to go check it real quick. But
No. I'm right here. Jay Skis.
Yeah.
And I'm about to pull your name up, too.
Listen. I don't know if, some of our Griselda listeners were already put on to them before, this deluxe came out. But yeah, after I heard that, I went to their Instagrams, man, and I went and followed them straight up.
Her name is 7 Times Eve, the Genius.
Yeah, man.
Something like that.
She's crazy.
I don't know if that's her name. No, she went ape shit, Mike. Yeah. No. I'm with you on that.
7 Times Eve, the Genius, right?
Right.
I didn't get a chance to go look at a lot of her stuff, and you know what? I felt this. Actually, you know how I felt when I first heard Amani Caesar on Westside Gunn's album. I was like, yo, who is she? I felt even more compelled on this one. Andre says she's on Drum Work. Okay. I'm gonna go.
Hey, you want to know? I want to shout Dre out. Dre be on his shit.
Yeah, man. 38 Special. Well, Jay said that 38 Special and She Noir need more shine.
Yeah, 38 Special, She Lord. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. They got a whole crew, but it's just the fact that they have a whole nother female that would give them 2 like high level females, Mike. Like what rap crew has ever really had that? Like 2 high level females. I mean, I guess Digga and Lauryn Hill like kind of ran with the Outsiders.
The Outsiders and Fugees, they were kind of fam. Well, like Andre said.
I mean, it wasn't kind of sort of. They were fam, but I don't know if they were an official crew or collective the way Griselda is.
Right. Well, I would say Amani is Westside's artist, technically. Is that right, Andre? Because Andre's saying that...
That's obvious.
All right. So, Eve, she is Conway's artist. That's what Andre's saying. She's on Conway's label, Drumwork.
Okay.
So,
I mean, but it's all fam though. It's all fam though. I mean, I'm pretty sure Benny and Westside gonna show up on her for her the way Conway and Benny showed up for Armani. Like,
could you imagine them two getting on a record together? Her and Armani.
I mean, any crew that I've seen in recent memory outside of TDE, it appears to me that they have a game plan.
You know what? Let's talk about that. TDE, respectfully, has dropped the ball as a crew.
Here we go.
Let's keep it real.
I just knew you were going to be disrespectful. No, Mike. I'm going to let you be disrespectful.
Let's keep it real. TDE, Black Hippies, these guys have dropped the ball as a crew. I mean, we're looking at what Griselda's doing right now, right? Look at what Griselda's doing. Imagine if TDE was able to do that with Ab-Soul, Kendrick, Jay, and Schoolboy. And do you ever wonder why Schoolboy and Kendrick don't be on each other's stuff like that? Like, it's...
I mean, no. Because the projects are usually really, really dope, even if they don't work together.
Kendrick doesn't put any of those guys on his project.
As far as those 2 guys are concerned, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Has either one of them ever made a whack album, Mike?
No. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they're so dope. And I think, honestly, Schoolboy probably picks the best production of all of them.
Correct.
And I would say Kendrick second.
Yes.
I would say Ab-Soul and J-Rock's production is on. And you know what?
It's different.
Secretly,
yeah. Different.
Yeah.
Jay just mixes the mark sometime with some of his productions.
Secretly, Ab-Soul's my favorite member of TDE. So
It's like sometimes Jay Rock's beats are too OG-ish, if that makes sense.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you can tell that like he grew up listening to like MC8, Compton's Most Wanted,
Right.
The Chronic.
Well, he's the oldest one, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you can tell.
Yeah.
Like in the beat selection, sometimes you can tell.
Ab-Soul's my favorite one, actually. And, you know, it's like, I think I like
Cute.
Ab-Soul's approach. I think that
Cute.
I'm not mad at that. I feel that. A lot of people's favorite one is Q. Ab-Soul's my favorite because he's the conspiracy theorist in the group.
Right. He's the thinker. He's
Yeah.
actually the real thinker.
Yeah.
He's actually the real thinker.
He gets the least help, too.
Like philosopher. He's actually like the most philosophical. You know what I mean? Like Kendrick is more in the vein of a Nas in the sense that he's a thinker, but a street reporter of the thoughts that other people are having as well.
It doesn't.
How about this? Ab-Soul's perspective is really more individualized. Kendrick's thought process contextualizes other people's processes.
Right.
Ab-Soul works from within more.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. And, you know, I feel like Griselda's more so about being a unit than TDE is. I think TDE is more so about, you know, putting out individual stars. I mean, because imagine, let's just say if Griselda...
Mike,
go ahead.
Hold on. That's not fair because this is what I keep bringing up. Like, and here's where the Wu-Tang comparison comes back in again, and I haven't said it around. They're the best rap crew to come out of New York since Wu-Tang, really. And here's part of what made Wu-Tang so great. The core of that was the RZA, the GZA, and Old Dirty Bastard.
Mm-hmm.
They were all cousins. Westside Gunn and Conway are brothers. Westside Gunn and Benny are cousins, and Conway grew up with Westside, and Benny was always there too. Like Westside posts baby pictures sometime of like all of them together. They literally have been together since they were kids.
That's the Migos.
That's different. It's different.
That's the Migos.
You rolling different when you roll like that. It's like you remember like if a nigga pissed the bed one time type shit. You know what I'm saying? It's different.
But to be honest, that's how the mob rolls. That's how the mob rolls. That's how the mob has that level of unity. Yeah.
Mike, it's some unfair advantage type shit. Like when niggas like that sees control in a hold, like you can't break that, Mike. That's what I mean. It's on some Wu-Tang shit. It's like you can't get in even when you get in.
Again, that's the mob. That's when you have a level of unity where you're not gonna break up. No. And it's blood. It's different. Like let's look at the Jacksons, right? Michael would have been left the Jackson 5 if they weren't brothers.
Like after like the first or second album.
Yeah, he would have been left them if they weren't brothers. I mean, he didn't technically leave the group until years after Thriller. He was in the group technically when he made Thriller. I mean, it's what it is.
And it's different, Mike, when you lose the way that they lost early. Like, they've been at this rap shit for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, if you go up on their pages, they be posting videos from back when they was doing shit. Like, Westside's got a project that he released before he did, like, his first bid, like, from the early 2000s, Mike.
Wow.
Like, think about it. He didn't make his big break till Blind Tell in, like, 2018. He got a project that he dropped, Mike, like, in 2003.
Wow.
And so, like, when you've lost the way that they've lost, Mike, and remained family through the losses, it ain't the victory that's keeping them tight. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's just like, no, they've been through the losses of, like, the family members, of, like, the prison bids, of rap shit not going well, of niggas telling them that they whack, of niggas telling him that he sound like Ghostface. Like, they've been through all that, and now they're here. Oh, no, there's no breaking that. Like, they just trying to crush shit, and that's what they doing.
Yeah. Nobody's going to be able to get between that. Rodney Levy says M dissed the hell out of Snoop. We can go through that, but all right. About the Eminem and Snoop thing, we can talk about that real quick. I mean, M dissing Snoop. First of all, you're not going to get any points for
I'm about to let Mike talk.
Dissing Snoop on that level. And honestly, Snoop didn't do anything but be honest with himself and the person that was asking him a question. Eminem's mad at Snoop, I guess, because Snoop said that Eminem wasn't in his top 10 MCs. And if Snoop feels like that's not what his top 10 is, who is Eminem to be entitled to everybody's top 10 spots? Eminem's not in my top 10 either. And for similar reasons as what Snoop said.
Hold on, Mike. Did Snoop make M's top 10 on Till I Collapse?
He did not. And Snoop said nothing about it.
Next.
So again,
I literally, like when you were saying that, I just thought about that. I'm like, hold on, wait, because he named Jay-Z, himself, Corrupt, Nas.
He said, well, here it is. Let me do it in order so I don't remember, so I don't forget. Reggie, Jay-Z, Tupac, and Biggie. Andre from Outkast, Jada, Corrupt, Nas, and then me. Did I miss something?
That's not.
That was not. Hold on. Reggie, Jay-Z, Tupac, and Biggie. Andre from Outkast, Jada, Corrupt. I feel like I missed somebody. But anyway, he didn't name Snoop. I will say that.
Scarface. I think he named Scarface.
He named Scarface? Okay.
I think it might have been Face. Mom.
Jay says, I'm sorry, Eminem's easily top 5 to me. We're going to have to call Jay into the room later on and have him explain why Eminem's in his top 5.
I'm going to let you talk to him, Mike.
I just want to know. Like, okay, all right, let's name 5 guys real quick. So, Jay, you think Eminem's better than Rakim? You think Eminem's better than Nas? You think Eminem's better than Biggie? You think Eminem's better than Tupac? And you think Eminem's better than Jay-Z? And tell me which one of those 5 you think he's better than, and I got another set of people for you real quick. Because I want to know. You know, I'm just saying.
Jay, I don't even know how you got this started.
But yeah,
Jay, I thought you've been watching. Right?
But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody should feel disrespected for somebody to say that they're not in their top 10. And the reasons that Snoop gave, from what I remember, is he was just saying that he doesn't. He said, this is what he said. He said that he can live without Eminem's music, and those people in his top 10, he can't live without. That's a personal thing. Like, he's right. Like, there's certain albums that I could say, you know what, I can go without that. But could I go without the fact that Paid in Full was made? Not so much.
No, I feel you.
And that's real.
I think it's just a personal music taste thing. And I think Eminem, how about this? Let's scale it all back and just look at it objectively. And let's say that this isn't 1998 or even 2005.
Right.
Like, I don't think people understand, like, making a top 50 MCs list from a region is difficult now. Like, making a top 50 MCs list from a region is difficult now. Like, Mike, 15 years ago, making a top 50 list wasn't that difficult.
Yeah.
And so things have changed, and, you know, it doesn't quite come off as like Get Off My Lawn, but close enough to it.
Well, this is my problem with Eminem and that type of statement. You never made your music for Snoop or any of the guys that, you know what I'm saying, that would listen to what he's actually talking about. And you're mad because you're not in their top whatever? You didn't make your music for Snoop and his, you know, his kind, you know, for lack of a better term.
For Snoop and his kind, I mean...
You know what I mean? Also, let's be real. Eminem was on TRL every day.
Hold on. If memory serves, though, most of Snoop's list consists of people who preceded him, though.
Exactly.
Because that's who he came up on, and that tends to be where your list reside. That's what I mean. And you have to understand. So this is what I mean. So last week, Mike, I said that before KRS, Kool G Rap, Rakim, and Kane came along, there really wasn't even a reason to have a greatest of the all-time discussion. You have to understand that Snoop is one of those guys that's coming in on the heels of that, along with Nas, and then Biggie, and then eventually Jay-Z. Redman's coming out around the time that Nas and Snoop and them are coming out too. Pac as well, of course. And so people have to understand that generation that Rakim and G-Rap and them started, that went into Snoop and Nas and Big and all of them, like those guys from like 87 to like 94, like they changed everything. they changed everything. I don't think people really understand that, like, they changed everything. And so Snoop is working from the perspective of probably looking back in 2020 and looking at the guys that he came up on, like, yo, them the niggas that really changed everything. That's my real top 10.
Well, see, I was listening to, I don't know if you listened to Pharrell's radio show. I don't know if he still has it. Other Tone or whatever on Apple Music. And so anyway, he was interviewing Q-Tip. And Q-Tip pretty much was, you know, because Q-Tip's his mentor in that sense, and obviously a hip-hop historian. But Q-Tip was just giving him a history lesson the whole time, and obviously everybody in the room was old enough to remember everything he was talking about. But he was just talking about the summer of '87 changed everything. He's talking about like how what rap was before that, and when songs like Eric B. is President dropped, and it changed everything. And for somebody like Snoop, who was born in the early 70s and who was old enough to understand that and remember that, and that is the reason why he even pursued a rap career, you're never going to be better than those guys to him.
Right. He's in junior high and high school, Mike. Yeah. There's no changing that. Like, that's what I mean. Like, okay, so for guys like Snoop specifically from that era, those are the guys that literally went and like his children listened to like Sugar Hill Gang and Run DMC and LL Cool J's radio album, and they looked up one day and KRS-One and Rakim were rhyming their ass off.
They woke up one day and everything changed.
And Mike, it happened in like a year and a half. I don't think people understand.
That's what Q-Tip was explaining, and he was naming all the records and making them play all the records that made that change.
You can hear it.
Yeah.
Like, go listen to the records in 1985. Go listen to the hip-hop records in the summer of 85, and then go listen to the hip-hop records in the summer of 87.
He said those are the records that birthed us, that made us what we are. It made the Q-Tips, it made the Dre's, and he was giving Marley Marl a lot of credit for birthing what, they do.
Skyrock.
Of course, and PE and what they were doing, but when somebody lived...
Rick Rubin had a lot to do with that too, because like he helped transition some of that era. Like he helped start some of that and transition some of that. Like
Paul C, who doesn't get enough credit too, because he was Prince Paul. That's my guy.
Yeah,
but so I mean, so for a person who saw that, and you could tell that Snoop's favorite rapper growing up was Slick Rick. You could tell that based on who he's always been. And so you're never going to match up to that, to them.
You didn't Mike, when Lottie Dottie and the show is coming out, like those are the records, like Snoop's probably like 10 when those records are coming out. Like you can't fuck with Slick Rick in like Snoop's mind.
I grew up in Atlanta in the 90s, mid to late 90s. No one's gonna touch Outkast for me.
Ever.
That's just what it is. Like,
okay, but at least for them, that's what I mean. So those guys from 87 to 94, they're standard setters, but a lot of them are standard bearers because a lot of their catalogs still haven't been surpassed yet, and that's why it's kind of called the golden era.
Right.
In a sense, because it's like a lot of those guys built legacies that a lot of guys haven't come along and exceeded the way that they did before. It's like for whatever you want to say, like you can think that Rakim's a better MC as Nas, but let's not like have a catalog or legacy conversation though.
Well, the thing about it is, everything that we praise Illmatic for the most part, is the fact that he brought back what they laid down. Because the game had kind of gone astray a little bit. The style had changed to the point where there was some bum skickety going on. No disrespect. But, Illmatic brought back that rapid rhyme pattern that Cool G, Rakim, KRS, and Kane were giving.
They brought lyrics and lyricism back. Mm-hmm. Like, they're
and they laid the foundation that was able to be brought back.
Mike, I mean, specifically, there are 3 albums that I think are the foundation truly for the modern day East Coast, New York MC rap scene, and that's Enter the Wu-Tang, Illmatic, and Ready to Die.
Speaking of Wu-Tang, Jay says that Wu-Tang is better than Outkast. I'm not gonna debate that.
Hold on. Here's what I'm gonna say is that as a whole, if you're including their solo projects, yes. But if you put Wu-Tang's 4 best solo albums up against Outkast's first 4 albums, they're not gonna win. And
I agree.
Wu-Tang is my second best group of all time. If we're talking overall, like, ain't nobody fucking with Wu-Tang ever. Like, in the history of rap, it's just too many guys that can rhyme and have made classic projects.
Exactly.
But if we're talking about the group project, Jay, after Wu-Tang Forever, it's not a conversation. So at best, they're 3 albums deep, but then they're still Stankonia, like, sitting over there, and they don't have nothing for Stankonia.
This is the thing. I agree, and this is the thing, because I know that we in the past have done like we've done.
Wu-Tang, you know what we want to talk about.
We've done greatest group tournaments, and I didn't want to do them because I don't think people could look at Wu-Tang objectively. Because like you said, if we're judging the group, we have to judge Wu-Tang by all the group efforts, and we can't include any of the solo stuff because we don't do that for anybody else. But I think that's impossible for people to actually internalize and actually not include, the purple tape or include any of that. You have to include, if we're talking about Wu-Tang against Tribe, Cass, whoever, we have to just go into the 36. We got to go Wu-Tang Forever. We got to go The W. We got to go Iron Flag. And we got to put those albums against... Yes. We got to put those albums against Tribe's catalog as Tribe Called Quest.
Now, Mike, let's not get it twisted. If we're counting Wu-Tang Forever as 2 albums, and The W and Enter the Wu-Tang, which I think would be their 4 best projects, in my opinion, I think in most people's opinion too, it's not like it's not a conversation. But The W is not Stankonia.
No, it's not.
And neither part of Wu-Tang Forever 1 or 2 is in the conversation for rap album of all time the way Aquemini is.
Jay says Wu-Tang Forever can go up against any album. I don't think it could go against Aquemini. And I do think that Wu-Tang Forever is one of the most lyrically dense hip-hop albums I've ever heard. And I've said that before.
No, it might be the most lyrically dense hip hop album ever, Mike.
I think it is.
Go back and listen to it.
It's crazy.
They really got super lyrically intense on that album, and like they had more fun on the first album, quite frankly, than they did on Wu-Tang Forever. Like in terms of like exhibiting their styles and their lyrical ability.
Wu-Tang Forever was competitive.
Yeah, no, Mike. All their stuff is competitive. Everything that Wu-Tang does is competitive. Listen to Duel of the Iron Mike off Liquid Swords. Like that shit is real.
Yeah.
But they just don't hold up classic material wise. Like as a group. Like how about this? If you were to name, you'd be like, hey, give me Wu-Tang's 25 best songs. You would probably only get about 5 to 7 songs from the Wu-Tang albums.
Oh, you might be right. You might be right because
is Ice Cream top 25 Wu-Tang song? Yes, it's not on a Wu-Tang album. Mike, What about Shadowboxing? What about Brooklyn Zoo? What about Bring the Pain?
No.
You want me to keep going, Mike?
Daytona 500. Yeah. No, I agree.
Like it's classic Wu-Tang shit, but it's not on Wu-Tang.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what makes it not fair to any other group. That's what makes it not fair.
Most of the classic Wu-Tang songs are on the first album. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Cream, Protect Your Neck, Can It All Be So Simple?
Yeah.
Shame on the Neck. Those are all the chess boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andre said, wait till y'all see what Amani Caesar got on at the concert. My damn.
See.
Well, keep giving us the update, going back and forth with the concert and going back here. I appreciate that, Dre.
See, they got everybody popping up. See, that's what I'm saying about how it's crew love. It's Benny and Conway shit, but look, Armani done already popped up.
I'm telling you, man, if TDE had this type of crew love, they'd be taking over the world. What I'm saying. I mean,
Mike, they got crew love, Mike. They've helped and supported each other.
Are we ever going to get a Black Hippie album? It's never going to happen.
Family. Mike, they're not family. These dudes are blood. It's different. They get everybody. Like, how about this, Mike? They really are on some mob shit because they're brothers and because it's blood. it's on some gang shit when you fucking with them. It's like, like when you fuck with us, like you only fuck with us. You don't fuck with anybody else unless we say that you fuck with anybody else because we're bringing you into this thing of ours. Gang, gang.
Well, let me go back real quick because I don't want to skip over this point too when we're talking about Wu-Tang. Do we not consider Wu-Tang? Well, I guess you got to consider them a group because they put out group albums. That's different than crew and collaborative albums. But if we're just talking about album for album, like we just stated, where does Wu-Tang group rank? Among all the groups in hip hop history? Because I would say, based on what we just said, De La has a better group catalog than them. I think Tribe has a better group catalog than them. Cass has a better group catalog than them. I think the Public Enemy has a better group catalog than them.
Stop. Okay, so here's where I'm going to argue you down. I have Wu-Tang at number 2, and I've considered all those things that you said. You and I have even talked this year about how, like, I've come to the conclusion that De La's catalog is actually better than Tribe's catalog.
It is.
Opinion. It is.
Album for album, they didn't have the singles that Tribe had, but yeah.
Okay, so Mike, so that's where I'm going to get into that whole cultural influence and impact thing that's also part of it. It's not just the music. So just their best 4 album run puts them in the conversation. But Mike, their influence on the game is far greater than any of the other groups that we've ever named. And that's why I still have them at number 2. I don't think you can deny the fact that Outkast made 3 classic albums and in a lot of people's minds 4. And I don't think any other rap group can really say that. I think De La possibly has some claim to it.
I think the way that Cass did it too, where all of the albums are so different.
Like Mike, it feels like you're listening to albums that got made 5 years apart when they got made 2 years apart.
They were a whole different group every time.
Right. It's like damn, did y'all switch speeds that quick? It's like, yeah, I guess they did.
Even if we want to talk about the 5th one, the split, the Speaker Box Love Below, that's a whole different group.
That's icing on the cake type of stuff. And for me, you don't even have to put that in the conversation for them to take the crown. But Wu-Tang's impact has been greater with all those other groups that arguably have a greater catalog. I would say De La has a better catalog than Wu-Tang album for album. I would tell you that Tribe or Public Enemy would be about a tie for me with Wu-Tang.
What I would say, playing devil's advocate, is most of Wu-Tang's impact based on their solo abilities and what they did solo.
It's everything.
Because everyone talks about the Purple Take being Griselda's, blueprint. That's a Wu-Tang solo.
Mike, that's not just everybody's. Like, that's just not their blueprint. That's like everybody's blueprint. I told Mike, it's the 3rd greatest rap album of all time, in my opinion. And since we're talking about it, I want to get into like my whole thought about like what have kept it from being the greatest rap album of all time. But I want to finish this point right quick about like the whole Wu-Tang thing. It's like, that's what makes it such an unfair advantage with them, is because it's hard to ignore the influence that they've had as a collective, even when they haven't been collective. You can't ignore it. It's been so impactful. Mike, there are kids out here named Raekwon.
Yeah, I know. I've met a kid named Raekwon. I was like, wow.
That's what I'm saying, Mike. Yeah. Like, that's the type of influence and impact that goes beyond, like, these dudes have touched people. There are people in Japan that don't know English but know every word to Wu-Tang Clan. Ain't nothing to fuck with. It's like, you can't fuck with that.
That logo is a monument in hip-hop. Not to quote any of the lyrics. But.
Mike, I was on social media, and I guess it's because I'm a hip-hop guy, and a lot of my social media stuff is, like, hip-hop driven. I saw this mat that had a big W on it that said, watch your step on it.
Yeah, I seen that. Watch your step, kid.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mike, every time I see something, I'm like, it's Wu-Tang forever. They didn't lie to me in 97. They said Wu-Tang forever.
They're right.
20, they still here. Mike, is Public Enemy still here strong like that, Mike? No. Is De La still strong like here, like that, Mike? Are any of these guys we talking about still here like Wu-Tang is here? That's why it's like they're number 2 and arguably number 1, unless you want to get down to the music with Outkast.
Well, again, but you know what? In that argument,
Raekwon, Ghost, and Meth are still spitting fire out here, Mike. Like,
listen, man. If you want to go on that argument, then Wu-Tang is better than Cass.
You need to protect your neck, Mike.
There's nobody better than Wu-Tang, and we have to understand.
Like,
Member
Dave
for
Chappelle
member.
shit, Mike, the Wu-Tang, the Dave Chappelle shit, Wu-Tang Financial. You need to protect your neck.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is always a funny thing to do. If we were to put Wu-Tang in the South, and you say, who are the top 5 Southern MCs? How many members from that group would be in that list? Let's just say top 10. If you threw Wu-Tang and put them in the South, say Wu-Tang is from Atlanta, Georgia or something, right? How many of those 10 members would be a top 10 Southern MC? You think Bun B raps better than Inspector Deck?
He has a better catalog, and he's done enough work that I would give Bun B the edge over Deck. Yeah, he's not he's not a better lyricist, but he's an overall better hip hop artist. Yeah, Bun's better than Deck.
He better than Raekwon?
No.
He better than GZA?
I told you, Deck is like my middleman because his catalog isn't what it should be. So I mean, so let's just go ahead and put it out. Like, there really isn't anybody down here outside of Andre or Scarface that you would even put in the conversation with Ray, Ghost, Meth, a rapping old dirty bastard, or the GZA.
That's 5 members right there. So you're telling me if Wu-Tang was from the South, they would make up half of the top 10.
If we're talking just MCs and the catalog and the cachet that goes with it, like Mike, I mean, this is what I mean. Like Mike, do you think? Okay, so like I love Tip and Wayne. Do you think they're a better MC than the GZA?
No.
Do you think they've made an album that's better than Liquid Swords?
I don't.
Are they a founder of a crew that's stronger than Wu-Tang because he's one of the founding members and the guy everybody used to look to because he was the first guy with the deal?
He was the guy that, you know, from what I understand,
he was the first guy to get on.
He taught them how to rap, a lot of them.
Right. And so when you put all those things together, he's considered to be like the 4th or 5th best guy in the fucking crew.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember when they used to interview like Ghost and Meth and they would ask for their top 5, they would be like Rakim, whoever, whatever, and GZA. I'm like, as a kid, I used to be like, what?
Like Rakim, Nas, GZA, like. and when you listen to Liquid Swords, like lyrically, it's on par with Rakim and Nas's best stuff lyrically. So,
GZA's amazing.
He's amazing.
Amazing. One of the best lyricists ever, and I think that gets swallowed up in the fact that he's in a group that's so lyrically dense. I think that Wu-Tang Forever, where we're speaking about how dense that album is lyrically, when you listen to a lot of his verses, like on As High as Wu-Tang Get or Elder Gods, you're like, gosh, I skipped over this, but...
Mike, he's the best lyricist in the most lyrical crew of all time. Period.
You can't, you can't sleep on that. And he shined in so many different moments. Guillotine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, I mean, if you really look at it, Mike, the only time he's really been faded is when Meth got him on Shadowboxing. Other than that,
listen, I'm a huge Shadowboxing fan, and Meth did his thing. That verse is crazy too.
No, that's like literally some of the best verses you're gonna find. Like period.
Yeah.
Like, period.
I slayed MCs back in the rec room ever. Man, come on.
Backs like him for terror.
Most rap niggas came loud but unheard. Round them off to the nearest third. What?
Check these non-visual figures. Listen, he's talking about, like, people forget how detailed that verse is. He's talking about whack MCs. Check these non-visual niggas.
Yeah.
Portrait.
At the seminar trying to orbit. Come on, man. No, I mean, listen.
Listen, what the niggas can't see must break through like the Wu unexpectedly. Protect your neck. My sword still remains imperial.
RZA scratch off the cereal. We rain all year round from June to June. My niggas bite immediately, if not soon. Yeah.
Inform the execution date for this 2000 Beyond Slang Suffocate. Amplified sample through vacuum tubes. Compression cause RZA. They charge niggas 20 G's a session.
I'm sorry. Listen, Meth.
No, it's a hard.
Meth had a impeccable.
lyrically, let's not even go there with Liquid Swords. Lyrically, Liquid Swords is somewhere that, like, very few rap albums has been, and that's every verse on that album, guest appearances included.
Let's go to Shadowboxing though. Lyrically, he faded Meth. He did.
Lyrically, he faded Meth.
Meth got him with the style.
How about this, Mike? That delivery,
that
Meth exhibited on Shadowboxing,
best he's ever done.
Mike, if we're just talking about for one song, that's the best delivery ever. If we're just talking one record, there's nobody that's come with a sicker flow on a record than Meth did on Shadowboxing. And show me the record. Because you're going to, like, Mike, because really, and here's where it's going to come down to, you're going to have to go through Biggie's best shit flow-wise to have something to match up with.
I have nothing, man. And I have nothing. And it's crazy that you say that because that was one of the records and I was really young that I listened to over and over and made sure that I knew all the words to, and just because of how Meth delivered that.
I wrote that shit down, Mike.
It was crazy.
It's the sickest flow ever. Like, for one song, sickest flow ever. And it's two separate styles of flow on the same track over the same beat. It's bananas.
Hard hat protect the dome. Look at mama baby boy acting like he grown. No time for sleep, I get steep as a baritone.
Killer like the first verse better, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
You know my bees
burning to the third degree. Sneaky ass, alley cat, top pedigree.
Top pedigree, the head toucher, in the street party, come rupture. You don't like it, dick up in you.
I mean, he had me at I break it down to the bone bristle.
To the bone bristle.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Those people scalp missile heat seeking.
There's like Wes Craven, niggas gunning. My third eye seen it coming before it happened. You know all about them statin kids. They smashing everything, huh?
And in any shape, form, or fashion. Yeah. Now everybody talking about they blasting.
Yeah,
is you busting still or is you flashing?
Mike, he was pausing on the beat at multiple times, picking the flow back up and destroying shit. Never heard no shit like that before.
Right.
He was literally pausing. Mike, he went,
Yo, Eminem didn't have Method Man in his top 10? Damn. And you got Reggie number 1? Damn.
I mean, that's not in my top 10 necessarily. No.
Nah, I'm just saying for somebody to have Reggie at number 1, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Redman and Method Man are separated by their solo efforts, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't think the gap is as big as sometimes people make it seem because of the work that Method Man put on in those Wu-Tang albums. Like you said, it's something to be said about being the standout guy in the most lyrical group ever of 10 motherfuckers. There's something to be said about that. For you to stand out in that collective, you're not a normal guy.
I mean, Mike, if we're talking just contributions, there's never been anybody that's contributed to classic shit the way Meth has within the collective of a crew. Whereas if you go through the other crew's classic
Lauryn
shit,
Hill? Am I wrong?
There.
No.
You're wrong.
Lauryn Hill?
Mike, here's the thing about it. What is Liquid Swords in the Purple Tape without Meth's contributions? It's not in the same conversation quite. He's that type of stunning of an artist. He can change the scope of an album. But speaking of which, let me talk about the second biggest star in the group at the time in my conspiracy kind of like theory with the Purple Tape.
Yeah.
So I was talking to you behind the scenes earlier since we're on all this Wu-Tang stuff, and we didn't intentionally do this. It just
Jay got us into this Wu-Tang talk. Jesus.
Jay, I'm glad you said something. So I was actually talking to Mike today earlier this afternoon, and I was telling him that, you know, I have the Purple Tape as the third greatest rap album of all time in my estimation. I have Illmatic at number 1 and Aquemini at number 2. But what I would tell people is
that's a good top 3.
That in my opinion, the only misstep on the Purple Tape is something that never happened, and I think it actually happening could arguably put it over the top and made it the greatest rap album of all time, and that's having Old Dirty Bastard on the Purple Tape. Because it's 1995, and that's peak Old Dirty Bastard, MC Dirty Bastard, like not the guy who was singing like Good Morning Heartache on Nigga Please, like taking like Billie Holiday songs. I mean, I love that record, but it's like that's not that guy. That's 1999 ODB.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 95 Brooklyn Zoo, Raw Pie, Shimmy Shimmy Ya, ODB on the Purple Tape. And I'm gonna point out a few records that I think he would have fit perfect on. First of all, I think he would have fit on Knuckleheads, but I wouldn't take You God off because. But I wouldn't take You God off, Mike, because I'm in agreement with you that that's the best verses of You God's career.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, well, you just said your agreement. Yeah. By far. Yeah.
So the two songs I want to point to, the first one is more of a stylistic fit thing. Dirty style wise would sound great on Spot Rushers.
I see that.
And Spot Rushers doesn't have a hook. And could you imagine Dirty giving Spot Rushers a hook before and at the end?
Yeah.
Kind of giving an outro a la Meth on Ice Cream.
Mm-hmm.
Because beat-wise, it has a pace that's comparable to Shame on a Nigga.
Yep.
And for me, one of the Wu-Tang things that I really miss that I feel like we never got, like, Shame on a Nigga, Mike, is like an arbitrary Wu-Tang classic because it's the only real classic hip-hop track that they have where it's just Meth, Ray, and Dirty, and they sound awesome together.
Yeah.
Mike.
That's a different combination right there.
It's a different combo, but I would have liked to heard Dirty over the Spot Rushers beat. And I think he would have given it a hook, given it a different type of energy. You know what I'm saying? To kind of fit, because Ray's fast-paced, high energy, like Robbery, you know what I'm saying, Mo? Like Dirt's energy and beat-wise, pace-wise would have fit perfectly at the time. And the next point that I would submit is that how great would he have sounded on Wu Gambino's instead of Master Killer? And I only say that because Master Killer already had a great verse and better performance on Glaciers of Ice.
I think Glaciers of Ice might be his best verse too.
Possibility.
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe that's a definite possibility too. So I would take Master Killer off of Wu Gambino's and put a Dirty verse in there. So what if you had a Dirty hook on Spot Rushers and a verse on Wu Gambino's? I think that could maybe put it over Equipment Eye or Illmatic.
Well, I always said that Akumenai would be pushed all the way to the max again if Ghostface in 98 would have been included on Skew It on the Barbie. Now, I don't know exactly who would have went first, second, third, and fourth, but I don't know. Maybe you split them up. Maybe you throw Andre. I liked Big Boy going last, though.
I would put Big Boy still needs to go last. I would put Ghost right after Ray. So I would go Ray, Ghost, Big Boy.
I think that'll probably be the best. But yeah, man, I love Skew It on the Barbie. I was just talking to somebody about Akumenai today because I saw that they had like this Akumenai hoodie, and I told him, I was like, yo, man, that's my best hip hop album I ever heard, pound for pound. I mean,
so that's what I mean, Mike. But they're the pieces to that. I mean, that's what I mean. How about this, Mike? On some rap shit, the Purple Tape is better than Aquemini.
Oh, of course. I think the Purple Tape might be the most lyrical hip hop album ever. Yeah.
I mean, Illmatic or Purple Tape. I mean, that's the thing about Illmatic. Okay, how about this, Mike? How about this? We're talking about Illmatic versus the two greatest rap groups of all time. Best albums that came out of their crew. That's how great Illmatic is. And that's a solo mission over there. That's why he's the GOAT.
I mean, the solo mission is different, and you get
best material can stand up to the best crews.
You get props for the. Listen, I'll say this. I think that the Purple Tape is more lyrical than Illmatic because everybody came and brought their best game, including Nas. And what I will say about the Purple Tape, though, Nas has the best verse on the whole album, which might be the most lyrical hip-hop album ever. No, this is...
Mike, I was about to say, since we're talking about how lyrical the Purple Tape is, what's the best verse on the Purple Tape?
That's what I'm saying. Even if I'm not going to give Nas Illmatic more lyrical than the Purple Tape, I will say that he has the best verse on that album that I think is more lyrical than his.
Lyrical album of all time. He has the best verse.
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just being objective here.
He's made arguably the greatest rap album of all time.
Yeah. Andre said yes, Nas had the best verse on that album. Yes, he did.
He beat Jay in battle, but there are guys like you walking around and still think Jay is better with all that evidence sitting right there in front of you. Okay, next.
I think Jay is better than Nas for different reasons, but, I mean...
Mike, it's only influence. Mike, it's only influence.
It took a lot of work, and I think
influence and hits. That's it. That's what he got them on.
Hits are big. Hits are big.
Influence hits delivery. But if we were making like a box, like Nas would check the other 7 though.
Speaking of which, and I know we don't want to get too much on nostalgia. Let's get back to 2020 since we're talking about it being one of the best years in hip hop. Spin Magazine gave Run the Jewels Best Artist of the Year, which I thought was interesting because they're a duo, and I thought that Best Group or Duo is a whole nother thing. But yeah, they gave Run the Jewels Best Artist of the Year. Didn't read the article. Maybe I should. But I'm thinking that most of that's based on, the Run the Jewels 4 album. I don't think that's based on, any of Killer Mike's individual feats this year, or they would have just named Killer Mike Artist of the Year. What do you think about Spin Magazine making the duo Artist of the Year, and how far down the totem pole in 2020 do you think Run the Jewels comes? Because a lot of our audience isn't really talking about Run the Jewels 4 that much.
Well, they're not talking about Run the Jewels 4 because it's just a good album, not a great album. It doesn't need to be in any album of the year consideration. It's a safe pick. It's a safe bet. It's arguably their weakest project.
Andre said I couldn't get into that album.
Thank you. I mean, there's some great moments on there. Walking in the Snow and Ooh La La are some of the best stuff that you'll find this year, period. But outside of those two songs, nothing really stuck with you like in an incredible way. It was a solid project. I think it barely made the top 20. I think it had like 16, 17, or 18.
I would say this, man. Killer Mike was rapping his ass off this year, even on the Good Morning.
I was about to say, as far as MC of the Year, I had him second this year to Conway.
Well, see, there it is. Why didn't they just give him Artist of the Year, though?
Hold on. That brings me to my point that it's like, outside of Lil Baby, every like Artist of the Year, MC of the Year award needs to go to somebody from Griselda, specifically Westside or Conway, depending on what the award is. If we're talking Artist of the Year, it's a conversation between Westside and Lil Baby. If we're talking anything MC related, it's Conway. So they're off on all accounts and all accords. It's not uncommon. They don't know what they're talking about. You don't need to read the article to see that, because you can see from who they picked on the cover that they're out of touch. And can I just say this? Like hip hop is so culturally blended yet still kind of separated. Like, these backpackers got to get off that shit and accept the fact that guys like Westside and Conway and Gibbs are making great, great music. Like, they got to get off it and accept it. And that's what I mean about Run the Jewels before being safe. It's like, oh, they ain't really talking none of that grimy street shit, which quite frankly flooded the list this year. And so you went safe with it for somebody that you knew, that your audience knew, that you could interview, that made a solid enough project that you thought that you was going to let it slide. We're not about to let that bullshit slide, Mike. They got no business being artists. Like nothing that they did this year like should have them in contention for anything except for Killer Mike's contributions as an MC. And I thought he was the second best MC this year after Conway.
Well, I think that Killer Mike did what he could, right? But I agree with what you... I agree with your statement and the fact that they're rubbing shoulders in certain circles where you can't be raw anymore. And I like Killer Mike. I always have liked Killer Mike. I think Killer Mike's dope. I think he's doing great things in the community. But a lot of that stuff that he said on that T.I. Libra record, I just couldn't believe as much as I did before he was telling people to stand down with the mayor. I don't believe Burn It Down as much anymore. Believability it's a big thing in hip hop, and once we know that you're not that anymore, it's fine. But at the same time, it's like you're kind of restricted in what you can make. Now, we don't want people to go backwards or whatever, anything like that. But I'm not gonna put you ahead of guys who are making that raw shit. Cause
when people follow you about a thing that goes beyond what you're known for, you have to be very careful. And so here's what I'm saying. When somebody like a Malcolm X wants to switch their ideologies and beliefs, it's easier to get people to switch and believe in that ideology and belief because that is what they do, and that's how they've existed. Since you don't exist in that realm totally, has in the social activism realm totally, you are still a musical artist. When you step into that other realm, you better be consistent, or musically, people are going to look at you and say the things that you just said, Mike. And I have to be honest with you, I feel the same way too. And it's not a disheartening feeling. I just look at some of what he says now, like, oh, it's just a dope verse.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I was like, yo, I love what Mike's saying and how he be putting it down for the community. And I can't front, that is in play now, because I hear his shit now, and I'm like, yeah, that was a really dope verse. I don't
Sounds good.
Anymore because it doesn't match up, and when it doesn't match up, it's like I digress, I divest.
No, I mean, whether people want to say that's fair or not, but it's what it is, man. You know, and like you said, people have, you know, they should change. You should grow. You know, that's just life. But don't go back and start spitting whatever. Like we don't believe it, man. Like,
you know, 50 always made this comment about how, like, hey, like, it's the music business. You in the music business, like, to sell records, like, be on the scene, be seen, like, be part of the machine. Like everybody that's telling you that they're not in it for that is pretty much like a liar. And he's right, because his comment was like, he was like, if you just making music because you love to make music, go into your basement,
put your headphones on,
and never put it out. And so it's like, you know, you're a social activist, yeah, but you still out here releasing albums that run the jewels, like, on the music scene and creating dollars off your name like that. And so it's like, we got to hold you up to it. And it's like, so when shit stopped matching up, and this year, unfortunately for him, it stopped matching up.
Because shit got real. And,
right.
you know, I would be...
But this is what I mean. Like, Spin is so... Like, a magazine like Spin is so fucking out of touch, because they think they're actually connecting to our audience, and they don't understand there's brothers like you and me that's like calling foul and flag on the play, because they're not in tune and in touch with it like we are.
Right.
They got too many of these fucking white boy backpackers that graduated from college that we used to go to school with, and we put on the hip hop that's sitting up here determining the culture. And so, like, we gotta call them out, and we gotta call them out, like, hard about it. That's what I mean. Like we can't just, like, call them out. It's like we gotta go in on them. Like, no, like, you don't know what you're talking about right now. Let me break down for you why. It's like, you can't relate to that. Like, I'll tell you what. I got a guy. I brought him up before. His name is Holland, DJ H. Holland's a white guy. And when I mean Mike, as much as anybody, I respect his hip hop opinion. I mean, I'm not saying this in a boastful way. I think that there aren't a lot of people that could sit where I'm sitting right now and break down things the way that I'm breaking down, in a cultural and an intellectual way. I'm saying to you right now that if he was sitting in this seat instead of me, y'all wouldn't be missing much, except for the fact that I probably can disseminate a lot of things as a black man that he can as a white man. For somebody like him, Liquid Swords is better than the Purple Tape, because the lifestyle that's getting exhibited on the Purple Tape was never something that he got to see, or something that he can personally relate to.
He's listening to it on a technical level.
Right, because and he'll tell you, he was like, I'm just a cool ass white boy from the suburbs that loves hip hop. And there's nothing wrong with that, Mike. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, he's one of the most astute hip hop minds, and just minds in general, that I know. But because of how he grew up, his perspective is that Liquid Swords is better than the Purple Tape. And technically he's right, because it's RZA's most innovative and creative production job. It's his most concise production job. It's lyrically almost right there with the Purple Tape. There's a valid argument to what he's saying,
right.
Except there's a part of hip-hop that's born in the streets, and that shit that you feel, and the things that you see, and the unfortunate circumstances and tenuous circumstances we're placed in as black women and men, that's not on Liquid Swords. It's on the Purple Tape.
Well, you know what we call that? We call that soul.
Right. I know.
And for me, I feel like, you know, again, I like Killer Mike as a solo artist, and I never really been into Run the Jewels like that, because the music doesn't have a level of soul that I'm used to hearing in hip hop.
Like, what I'm saying is okay. So what I'm saying is that guys like my guy Holland are the guys that are putting these people on the covers, except for Holland wouldn't do that because he's talking to guys like me that are giving him more to go off of than that,
Right.
than his personal opinion.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, no, me and him have had that purple tape, Liquid Swords conversation, and why? And what I'm saying is those dudes up at Spin, they not having those conversations. So they're not looking at From a King to a God or Pray for Paris or Alfredo like they should.
The technical guys.
They probably didn't even listen to King's Disease or ELE2 like they should, Mike.
Well, I mean, you remember when King's Disease came out, I forgot which writer it was for what publication. It was a major publication. It might have been Rolling Stone. Yeah, where he was talking about it was the most misogynist album and woman-hating album of the year. And it's like, no, you don't get to say that. You know, see, the thing is, especially in cancel culture, and where we got to be careful in cancel culture, you sit there and let certain people with a level of following or a huge publication say things like that, and people will try to get certain folks canceled without actually evaluating what's being said. And I think that's what the attempt was with Nas.
Right. How about this, Mike? I would have respected it much more, and then it would have been more debatable, and we can have a conversation if Spin Magazine would have named Killer Mike MC of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, at that point, I'm thinking to myself, well, I have him at number 2. So if you have him at number 1, I can respect that, and now we can debate that. But when y'all have them as Artist of the Year,
it looks crazy.
When their shit wasn't even a top 10 album,
it looks political. Like, no. It looks political. Like, why can't you just put him individually there? You said artist, not group, whatever. And, you know, I'll put it this way. If you're not going to go Lil Baby, or you're not going to go West Side Gun, or Conway, you're going to have a real tough argument. Or Gibbs. Yeah. Gibbs is in the argument, too. If you're not going to go that way, and I can see Lil Baby just based on a commercial, like numbers, numerically, you can make your argument with that. Conway.
There's so many guys ahead of him, Mike. We could go to Nas. We could go to Royce. We could go to Thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could go down a list of people. It's like, that's what I mean. Like, for me, if you're not even in the top 5, you're not in contention, Mike. I'm not even certain if they're in top 10 contention for anything except for Killer Mike and MC of the Year.
All right, so let's run down before, while we're headed out of the show. Because this is probably going to, think it's going to be the last show before the new year because Christmas is on a Friday. And that means that New Year's Eve is going to be on a Friday. So, and we got to get this yearbook out, and we'll talk about that, when we put it out. But I'm finishing up a few things on that. So,
I'm almost done my part, Mike. I'm almost done.
Yeah, same here. All right, so I guess we got to run down album of the year.
Yeah.
No. Tell me. Okay, I'm gonna say.
Don't Pray for Paris. It's unfair, and I'm gonna tell you how this year is gonna end up going because Conway is having such a great overall MC year, and because of this deluxe version From a King to a God, I think history is gonna remember From a King to a God as the album of the year in hindsight, even though Pray for Paris is. Conway made a post that I sent to you about all these little nerdy ass bloggers that don't rate their albums and projects properly, and they're right. It's like it's the end of the year, and none of these other publications are talking about From a King to a God and Pray for Paris or Alfredo like they should. They're the best 3 rap albums this year. I don't care if you don't like the rhetoric because it's a bunch of punk ass white boys who quite frankly don't stay in tune with this culture enough. Like, my man Holland's a DJ. Like, he goes and DJs, like, live. Like, hip, you know what I'm saying?
Well, DJs are in a different stratosphere because they actually play records and they actually see real people's reaction when they play them. So they have a whole different litmus test.
That's what I mean about these dudes that sit up there making these decisions. It's like, y'all not in touch with shit. It's like, y'all not talking to no artists. Y'all not talking to no local people. Y'all not looking at the streets. Y'all not seeing who's on the come up. Y'all just sitting up in an office writing these articles. From a King to a God is probably going to go down in memory as album of the year, but if we're just talking about release to release, original to original, is Pray for Paris.
All right. MC of the year.
Conway.
Okay. Hip hop artist of the year.
West Side Gun.
Okay.
Barely Over Little Baby. I mean, it's just hard. He put out 3 quality projects this year, and he put out the album of the year. How about this?
Hmm.
Here's what I mean about taking it back to the streets. We got to give the nod to the quality of the album over the numbers.
Hmm.
And so that's why it's West Side Over Little Baby. Pray for Paris is better album than My Turn. And he released 2 other full scale projects on top of that.
Song of the year.
I need help with that. If I'm Mike, I still feel like George Bondo,
Hmm.
Jesus Crisis,
You know what?
Sir,
I
Sir
might have
Return.
to. Can we? I'm thinking. Look, I mean, if we talking impact and all that stuff, Lil
Little
Baby's.
Baby,
Yeah,
Bigger Picture.
bigger picture
I
might
really
be
want to
it.
know, Mike, if you're talking really the song of the year and the impact and like the artist and the having the moment, you might have a very valid. I look at quality of music first with everything. I
Right.
didn't gauge the impact maybe properly. The bigger picture probably should be the song of the year when because we talk about artists from his generation not saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't necessarily gloss over it when they do. I just don't
And then it
think
makes
it's
an impact, and it's listened to by everyone.
oh, it
Yeah.
is. I just don't think it's like just pound for pound a better song than the songs I just mentioned.
Of
But you're
course.
right.
Of course. No, no.
You're right.
And song of the year doesn't always mean that pound for pound best quality. It's more so about impact and what when we go back and look at this year, what's the song that people are gonna remember the year by?
Oh, Mike, I'm gonna tell you personally what my favorite song this year is, though, if I can.
Go ahead.
It's Scotty Beam,
Was it?
Gibbs and Ross.
Mm.
Scotty Beam. Yeah.
Hey,
Scotty
Ross
Beam was
had some pretty strong features this year. I love
Ross.
the record
Okay.
with him and Buster.
So since we're talking about it, Ross was my guest feature artist of the year, barely over Conway.
Mm.
Barely. And I think Ross had one of the best guest feature years of all time too. That's what I mean.
He
There's
did.
so many things about this year ancillary. Like Ross had one of the best rap years of his career, and he didn't drop an album, Mike. Like you go look at the top 30 albums this year, he's on like 12 of them.
Yeah. I mean, even
with impactful work, it's like he's doing records that it's like that's one of the 2 or 3 best records on the album.
Yep, the Jeezy record, the
Jeezy
Buster record,
the Tip record,
Tip
the
record.
Tip record, the Jeezy record. Mike, he's on he's on Yo Gotti's album. He just did something with Lucci.
He just changed to me, and I like the Busta Rhymes album, but he changed the whole color of that album when he came through with that feature.
He changed the pace. He changed the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
He took the momentum somewhere else. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like Scotty Beam. How about this? Scotty Beam is where you realize Alfredo's about to be a classic.
Yeah.
Like Gibbs is snapping the way he does, because that might be the best verse of Gibbs' career. And then like to have Ross come in, because when you hear the beat, Mike, he might be the only artist in the history of rap that when you might hear a beat now, like he has such a reputation that you hear a beat and you're like, man, I hope Ross is rapping on that beat. Like I remember the first time Scotty Beam dropped, I was like, man, if Ross is on this shit. And then I looked at that shit and I was like,
you listen. So, if Ross is on the record,
like the bigger picture overall, but like Mike, Scotty Beam. He pulled me over and asked me, yo, what's the problem, sir?
Yeah, man. If you
on the pothole, I had no option, sir.
If you got Rick Ross on the record,
sir.
If you got Rick,
be on the run for smoking an officer.
You got Rick Ross on the record, it's a guarantee that the production is top notch. I mean,
Mike Gibbs went crazy on there. We was busting at the police before Queen and Slim.
Speaking of which, producer of the year,
Alchemist.
Yeah.
All right. I got Hit Boy, Weezy on the list. Hit Boy and Weezy. I put Derringer and Beat Butcher together just because most of the work they did together. If I'm not mistaken, Beat Butcher did the beat to George Bondo, but most of their great shit they did together, and that was good to see. Derringer, I guess, is kind of Beat Butcher's kind of come under the tutelage of Derringer, I believe, like in the Griselda family is what it appears has happened, because Derringer was the Griselda's original producer.
Slept on album of the year.
I'm going to go Reasonable Drought with Stove God Cooks just because of all the other albums that should be slept on. They're names that you know, so I want to give you a name that you don't know. And I could argue that his project was better than the other guys that deserve consideration from beginning to end.
Lyricist of the year. I guess
Conway.
that's still gonna go to Conway. We'll probably combine those two this year. What about female hip hop artist of the year?
Armani.
Armani.
She made the best hip hop rap album that a female's made in quite some time.
The Liz is very tough. It's very tough.
Like, when is the last time that like a female made a rap album that was like this good? Like
Andre says Megan.
Rhapsody's Eve is the only album that's even come out in the last 10 years by a female that I can think of that's better than the Liz.
I like the Liz a lot.
And I'll tell you what, even though Rhapsody's Eve is better, I'd probably rather listen to the Liz. And I'm from Carolina.
I'd rather listen to the Liz too.
I thought Eve was the album of the year. So
that's huge.
Yeah, that shit was dope, Mike. Them beats were awesome on the Liz, and she delivered.
Yeah,
so did all the guest appearances. Yep.
I mean, I love the features on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, they kept the brand going, man. Like, that was one of those albums that, like I said, to me, I think I would look at that as like the surprise album of the year.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it cracked my top 15. I think that would be a surprise from somebody that most people hadn't heard about. Like, literally, like in March, you didn't know who she was, really.
What about group of the year? Group or duo? Let's just do it like that.
I mean, I looked at Griselda like a group, so like I would give it to Griselda.
They didn't put out a group album. I would say the Lox.
Okay, I mean that's what I mean. It's like, what are you saying when you're saying group?
People who put out a group album. Griselda put out a group album last year, though. So.
No. If you're talking about a group that put out an album, I'm with you on the Lox. They put out the best group album by a hip hop group this year. Easy. All the other albums that are better are solo projects. And they're solo projects, Mike. How about this? Every project that's ahead of the Lox this year had production from the producers of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about most disappointing hip-hop album of the year?
Jay Electronica, Written Testimony.
I agree.
Yeah, you shouldn't be on my slept on list. You should be on my album of the year contender list.
I agree with that for a lot of reasons.
Especially with Jay's riding shotgun. Like here's where it is. It's like Jay's riding shotgun and you can't make a top 20 album, fam. I don't care what anybody says. That's not one of the 20 best rap albums this year. And I'm going to argue you all the way down if you try to give it to me.
And Jay's riding shotgun and really riding shotgun. Like, he was going in.
Like, Jay sounds great. That's what I mean. It's like, and you still can't make it. You can't make a top 20 with Jay.
And it was forgettable. Like, you know, a lot of people would be like, oh, I forgot Jay was on that.
That's the worst part about it, Mike. It's like for you to be waiting for so long and so anticipated to make a forgettable project like that.
No. Not waiting that long to make a forgettable project. You waited that long, had the most anticipated buzz in the past 10 years because you didn't do anything, and you surprised everybody with sharing the album with MC that people, you know, many people think is the GOAT. And it's forgettable?
I mean, okay,
that's ugly.
So when we look at it, it's like, is there anything that's classic on there other than Ghost of Soulja Slim?
That's where I was going to go, but that's about it.
And I don't even think that's classic, Mike, because I don't even know if Ghost of Soulja Slim was one of the 10 best rap songs this year. Like, I had it on my original top 20, but I don't think it's going to end up making the cut.
I know we've had a category in the past that I guess could come across as whatever, but kind of like veteran album of the year, like guys who've been in the game over 15 years and dropped something that was like really connecting. And I mean, I think Nas really gets that with King's Disease, but I want to give a special shout out to, you know, Living Off Experience too, because I know we've talked about the Lox album. I think the Lox dropped the best group Lox album in their career.
I agree.
25 plus years into their career. Well, they technically came out in 97, right? 98, yeah. So 23 years into their career, they put out the best group album. of their career.
'Cause
That's very impressive.
We Are the Street sounds like guys that are about to go make separate solo albums. I want people to understand that, and that's why you're saying group album, because a lot of people think We Are the Streets are better, and we're saying like, no, that album's not cohesive like this. When you can tell that they're all about to go make solo albums, they all got solo records on there. That was part of the problem.
Yeah.
Like all three of the solo records on We Are the Streets were good, but not great. It didn't really do anything for any of their buzzes. The album would have felt more concise had they made it feel like a group project and took those songs off.
But I think that record came out before anybody had any solo efforts, and this one was like
Actually,
their solo individual powers were actually making them better, and they finally brought back what they learned to the group. Kind of like Wu-Tang Forever. You know what I mean? Like, okay, everybody had a taste of being solo. Now let's come back and put together what we've learned as individuals into a group setting.
you want to know what, Mike? I take that back. Styles P felony niggas on We Are the Streets should have stayed on there. That shit was hard. The other two solo joints, Jada and Sheik solo joints, could have gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys are great when they're together, man. And what's the song that's on Jada's album that Premier did? Ain't none of y'all better than Kiss. Like, yo, when those three...
No. Hold on. Yeah, hold on, because Recognize is on We Are the Streets, right? Isn't that Recognize?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when those guys...
on, Mike. No, Mike. Hold on. No, Mike. Isn't it Recognize on Kiss's album and on We Are the Streets, it's the None of Y'all Better.
None of Y'all Better is... That's on... Nah. None of Y'all Better is on... I thought that was on... not Kiss the Game Goodbye, but... Yeah. Kiss the Game Goodbye. Either way, that record right there shows you what the three of those guys can do together.
No, Mike, you're right. None of Y'all Better is off Kiss the Game Goodbye.
Yeah, and that's a crazy record.
It is.
Yeah, and so I think Living Off Experience, these guys sound great. And, and I think that they got to get credit for that. Because there's a lot of guys that we listen to who have been rapping a long time or been making music a long time. And it's not just rap. Singers, whatever. You lose a little bit. And they sound better than ever.
Mike, if you look, and this is what I mean how great this year is, if you look at the albums that are better than the Lox' album, here's what you had happen. Two of the greatest MCs of all time made some of their best work in forever in Nas and Buster.
Mm-hmm.
And you literally had four guys in Boldy, Westside, Gibbs, and Conway, who were all connected to each other coincidentally, literally make the albums of their lives.
So
it took two legends making the best albums that they've made in over a decade and four guys making the albums of their lives for this album not to be the album of the year. It would have been the album of the year probably the last 2 years.
In 2019, I think it may have been.
I mean, not 18.
19.
But how about this? It would have been a top 5 album in 18 too, and that was a great hip hop year because I would put that right after Astro World, Daytona, and Victory Lap. I would put the Lox album. The Lox album is better than anything else after those 3 albums that came out in 2018.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. But yeah, I love the rundown. We're gonna give people a real rundown on the site. It's kind of waiting closer to the new year. Let people enjoy, their Christmas holiday. And we'll go ahead and put all these rundowns of what we're talking about. And we got something real special that we're going to roll out for this 2020 year that's been such a great year in hip-hop. I think it's going to be a great pace setter for what we have coming in the next decade in hip-hop. I think that's what makes 2020 so important, too. It's the fact that the approach that people took to hip-hop and how people are latching on to the streets and the grassroots, the core. I think we're going to get more of that in 2021. And when these guys who are the big dogs, the Kendricks, the Coles, when they come back, this is the pace. And they got to get with it. They're not in control of the narrative anymore. I mean, the pace has been set.
I mean, Mike, we'll see what their second win looks like. You know what I mean? Because they've been looked at in this era the way that... a Jay-Z, Eminem, a DMX, a Nas, and them have been looked at as before. And the thing that's been beautiful about those guys is that they've been able to survive and adapt. How about this? Nas has been here longer than everybody that's pretty much still making music, except for Busta.
They've got.
Like, is there a hip hop artist that's still making albums that was around before Nas and Busta? They just made some of the best stuff of their career.
Snoop Dogg, I guess, but yeah.
I said, but is Snoop still making music, really, like hip hop music?
Yeah,
not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the thing about Kendrick and Cole, let's just say them, because they're always put as the Rakim, Kane, and Nas and Jay of this era. They're gonna have to come back and adjust to the pace of what's going on now, and they're not in control anymore. They're gonna have to adjust. It's just what it is. And with their next effort, we're gonna see if they're gonna be put on the other side of their career yet or not. It's just where we're at.
Mike, you got to kind of move with the movement. Like, I'm gonna tell you what, when we reviewed Pray for Paris, I'm going to tell you what, and it's rare that I do this because I really don't be reading other people's shit, but I thought that album was so great. And Mike, before we did our show, I went back and saw how everybody was reviewing it. And I'm going to tell you what it did. Like, it made me double down on the fact that it was a classic, that everybody else wasn't calling it a classic. Because, like, from watching Griselda and The Grind, like, I was like, no, I'm doubling down on my opinion the same way they doubled down on their grind. All these little 6.7s and 7.3s that are giving this album, like, that let me know that people were out of touch when, like, this album wasn't getting at least an 8 by critics. You know what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of them are paid to make sure that no one takes the spot of certain people. And so a lot of the things that they're putting out there just aren't realities. And so... because if we set the bar this high, if we set the bar, go ahead.
No. I'm just saying they weren't even giving Pray for Paris like an 8, Mike. That's when I was like, nah,
right.
This shit is classic. We gonna be on the right side of history, and that's why when you were like, is it a classic? I was like, for me, it's a 10. And it's like, then I just like, no, fuck that. Like, it's a 10. Like, it's a 10 the way Hell Hath No Fury was a 10, and didn't nobody say it was a 10.
Exactly, because that's the thing. That's the thing, because if we set the bar at Pray for Paris and we set the bar from a king to a god, what happens when the darlings of the music industry come through and have to produce their new efforts? That's the standard now. Now, if you don't make that the standard, then those folks can come through and, like you said, those same publications can give them an 8 or a 9 or whatever.
Right. So, Mike, how about this? If people are going to be making Run the Jewels for the Artist of the Year and, like, the standard and all this, like, well, it's going to be so easy for Kendrick and Cole to walk
exactly, and that's the plan.
Like, we ain't having that shit. It's like, nah, put that album to number 16, 17, where I put it. Pray for Paris is number 1. From a King to a God is number 2. Alfredo is number 3. King's Disease number 4. ELE2 number 5. Price of Tea in China by Boldy number 6. Living Off Experience number 7. Streams of Thought number 8. Allegory number 9. Detroit 2 number 10.
We just got to keep it real. I mean, it's what it is. But you know what? Even though we were talking about Jay Electronica and we were talking about some of the heavy hitters in the year, I gotta give I don't want to say props, but we got to mention the fact that Lil Wayne's funeral was disappointing, and Eminem's music to be murdered by, would that be considered disappointing as well?
I mean, for who they are as artists in the scope of music, you could call it disappointing, but it's almost like when an artist has been where they've been and made the amount of material that they've made, when they don't make a project that hits, I try not to gravitate towards it too much. I try to highlight when they hit their mark, a la like Nas and Busta did this year. Because I felt like Future missed the mark too. Like Future, Eminem, and Wayne missed the mark. But it's like, I'm not going to sit up here and talk about it or harp on it when there's so much other great music to talk about. And when they've already made great music, it's like, come with some better shit next time, and you know.
I understand that. All right, so what we'll go out with on 2020, and for anybody that's coming through in 2021, The gold standard, I think we would say, is definitely album-wise, Pray for Paris. MC-wise, is Conway. And I mean, I know it sounds biased because they're in the same crew and all that, but it is what it is. And when the big dogs show up, or the ones who have been the big dogs in the past couple of years in hip-hop, I guess the past decade, that's the standard. And, you know, don't fool yourself in thinking that some other albums are the standard. The streets know. Method Man said what he said. Raekwon said what he said. Nas said what he said about Conway's effort. So, you know, like Prince said, man, I think it was somebody gave, what was it? Album after Purple Rain.
Parade. Around the World in a Day.
Around the World in a Day, yes.
Around the World in a Day and then Parade. Yeah.
So somebody gave Around the World in a Day a bad review or whatnot, and, you know, and they asked him about it, and he was like, whoever wrote that never made an album and never made any music, never performed any music. He was like, George Clinton said he loved the album. That was enough for me. So, saying all that to say, Method Man, Raekwon, and Nas have spoken. That's the standard. Doesn't matter who anybody puts on the cover of some magazine. We know what it is as hip-hop listeners. And those artists, they know what the standard is, too, as long as they're still hip-hop fans, because they're listening to what's going on also.
See, that's what I mean. Like, but we have to start drilling that point home more, like Mike. Like, no, it don't matter what Spin says. It matters what Nas, Ray, like, it matters what they say. Like, it matters what they say. It doesn't matter what these dudes up at Spin say. It doesn't matter what these dudes at Rolling Stone say. Like, Nas said that Conway was the God MC. Like, I don't need to hear nothing else either, Mike, because I've been following that dude entire career since I was a teenager, and I've never heard him or seen him speak highly of somebody like that on that level in that manner publicly. I don't need Rolling Stone or Spin to tell me shit when Nas do something like that. Conway the best MC in the game. Don't ask me why, because Nas said so, nigga. That's why.
Merry Christmas.